Hi friends, it's Grace and welcome back to another video. Today it is time to talk about the final episode of Reading Booktubers' favorite books for 2023, the December edition, which was marked by Augustus by John Williams, which was the recommendation from Alan from the Library of Allenxandria. And honestly, this is a very on-brand book for Alan to recommend to me. I feel like we don't even really need to hear him say why, because if you watch Alan's channel, which if you don't, you absolutely should. I will have his channel linked in the description, of course. But if you have watched Alan's videos and you've been following him for a while, you know that, first of all, he is a teacher and he teaches a lot of the classics, and by classics I mean like the field of study classics, not just like classic novels in English literature, but he loves like history, he loves the Romans, and so this is, it's not hard to predict why this would be one of his favorite books, I think is what I'm getting at. So I will basically I will give more of my final thoughts at the end of this video, but I am just going to get into some of the vlog clips that I took of my experience reading Augustus, and then we will come back and see each other again. Good morning, friends. It is mid-December, and today is the day that I start Augustus by John Williams. So really the only thing I know about this is that it follows the life of Augustus. It will be, I assume, historical fiction. I don't know what style it's going to be written in exactly, whether it's just going to be like prose historical fiction or whether it's going to be in any sort of special like approach, but I am looking forward to it. Oh, hi. She wants to be involved. But anyway, the other thing I know is that I loved Stoner by John Williams, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this one, and we'll see how my progress is, like when I give the updates, but generally I try to do so every like 50 to 100 pages, so that will probably be what I do, and I'll get back to you once I've read some of it. Okay, so my first update on Augustus is that I'm not as far into it as I had hoped, but not for any like lack of quality on the book's part, just the fact that I was working nights and I realized that when I was finished my work and ready to kind of read at like 4 in the morning, I opened the book and I was like, well, okay, I don't really have the brain power to devote to this right now. And it's not because like it's written in a difficult way, because like I actually think that John Williams' writing is very like, I really like his prose, and it's very nicely styled, but it's not difficult for me. But it's mostly just the fact that I opened the book and I realized that I needed to, at the very least, like understand what was going on, because I'm not very familiar with a lot of these historical figures from ancient Rome. And so I'm going to try and like commit some of these like main people to memory that we're going to be following. So I'm about 25 pages in now, but I thought I would hop on just to say that, like, once again, like I mentioned, really enjoying the writing, but also there are some kind of just like philosophical little tidbits that have been thrown in, because this book is being written in the form of letters, which I find very interesting and I actually really like, because it kind of gives a voice and some early characterization to some of these people, and I really like seeing that, like the story being told through letters that are being sent, and I like to see kind of people expressing their like philosophical thoughts, I guess. So I'm hoping that continues, and I'm just like, I'm looking forward to kind of enjoying this historical saga. Hello, so I am 110 pages in to Augustus. It actually kind of looks like I'm like halfway, but I think it's more like about a third of the way through the actual like page count of the books if you don't include the introduction and whatever else. But it's interesting. I don't really know what to say about this, because like it is fascinating, but it really doesn't feel so much it doesn't feel so much like reading a novel. It really feels like reading a history. And that's not necessarily like a negative. It's just that is very much the vibe. It's not easy for me to read it fast. In fact, I've actually finished 2 books since I last picked this up, but that was only yesterday morning, so it's not that dramatic. But I definitely feel that I can handle about 30 to 40 pages of this at a time at most, because there is a lot of detail that I want to be understanding it, and I don't have a lot of standing knowledge on Roman history. So it doesn't so much feel like these are characters that I can get to know. It really feels like that they are the historical figures that they are. And there is a lot of cool kind of philosophy and a lot of cool, almost just like world context, because that's what history is. But it's just interesting to see how these things play out and how they interact with things that, like, you know, about the world today without realizing necessarily that they spring from a certain branch of history. And I do find that to be very interesting. I think that personally right now my favorite letters that we're privy to are the letters that are being written by his friend, like Augustus's friend, the poet, in 13 BC, which is about 25 years in the future from like our so-called main timeline that's in like 40 BC to like 37-ish BC. At least that's where we're at, where I'm at right now. And I think possibly that's who I would call kind of my favorite like character from the book, because just kind of the way that like he relates the story. But it's interesting. I don't know when I'll do my next update, and also I don't know how I would rate a book like this either. So I guess I'll just have to see like how it plays out, but it is good. Okay, I'm honestly not entirely sure when the last time I updated was, like what page number I was on. I think I've had like 2 sittings of reading though without an update, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm about 40% of the way through the book now. I've actually been like tabbing a couple of things. You can't even really see them, but I've been tabbing a couple things because there are some like just passages that I like, and honestly, the thing that I really enjoy about this book is kind of the touch of philosophy, and I think that that's something that really comes through in the epistolary format, because I think I said this earlier, but it does make it very interesting to see all of these different perspectives and like what they would write in a letter, like from their perspective of what's going on in Rome and like the history of Rome. And also this most recent kind of stretch of the book that I've read has dealt with like Antony and Cleopatra, and my brain the whole time is going, I know this is a tragedy by Shakespeare, I haven't read it, but I know that it can't end well for them because it's a tragedy by Shakespeare. So maybe I should read Antony and Cleopatra. But this was a very engaging part of the book, and so I've made it to book 2, and I guess that's kind of like a before and after of like Marcus Antonius and like his era of Rome and everything. But yeah, I have found it very engaging. It's still not a quick read for me, but it is good, so like can't complain. Okay, so I just finished Augustus. I wasn't doing regular updates throughout the second, like, half, maybe, of the book. I'm not sure when I stopped, but I think it's just because, like, after each section, I didn't necessarily have specific things to say because, like, this book, it explores an entire time period, but because it's composed of letters, it has a really interesting composition of going back and forth in time. And so it's not really about like the next plot point in the book or like the next like plot point in Augustus's life or the lives of those around him. It's sort of like it all culminates in his life, but it's very interesting to see how it all comes together. Like, I suppose I could have done an update regarding his relationship with his daughter Julia and like what ended up happening to her and the conspiracy that like she may or may not have been aware of that was striving to like kill her father and and her husband that was supposed to be the heir. But there's mostly, I think, a lot of philosophy in here, and I think that I don't know what the right word is, like extraordinary thing about this book is how convincing it is psychologically. Like, John Williams is a truly talented author in terms of like, my mind knows that I'm reading like a fictional rendering of this, but the way that it's done, I can truly believe that I am reading like actual letters and actual writings from all of these people that have been characters in this book that he has chosen to highlight and has chosen to like shed light on what their thoughts and feelings and relationships might have been at any point during like the reign of Augustus. And it's really interesting in that sense because like I don't know, like I haven't looked into what the research has been that went into this, and I haven't looked into like how complete the records actually are, or whether we have any access to like letters or writings from these people in the modern day. Like, what I am guessing is that he did a lot of research on the publicly known like actions and political affiliations and maybe like reputations of these people, and has managed to make it into this, which is truly just impressive. And I don't know, like, see, the thing is, I kind of want to give this like a 4.5 because earlier on in the book, I did find it like a little bit dense and slower to read, but on the whole, it ended up just being fantastic and phenomenal. So I feel like a 4.5 is fair because I think that it is really something to be proud of, like, for this author, and it's extremely well written. But yeah, like, it wasn't perfect, but like for what it ended up being, like the culmination in the end was just like almost perfect, basically, like what it was trying to do. And I feel like I should read more from this time period because obviously like this is inevitably going to be like one take on it, but I just have a feeling that from here on out, I'm kind of going to have a mental image of these people the way that John Williams has illustrated them for me. So no, this was really, really great. And thank you, Alan, for the recommendation. And I do agree with the assessment that like I should have and did read Stoner first. But both of these books have just been like, I guess, just a joy to read, like to look back on and like think about them. They really are thought-provoking, and now it excites me that I also own his other novel, Butcher's Crossing, and I have no idea when I'm going to read that, but it is nice to know that I do have that on my shelf and that there's more from this author. So obviously I'm going to do even more of my final thoughts when I actually film this like video intro and conclusion, so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this if you have any interest in this period of history. Okay, so in Augustus, John Williams wrote this novel in the epistolary format, which means in the form of letters, and he took on this whole time period of a historical narrative, basically from the death of Julius Caesar all the way until the end of the reign of Emperor Augustus, or Gaius Octavius Caesar. So this is something that, quite honestly, I did not know very much about. I was not very familiar with this time period, and this book, for me, is a 4.5 star rounded up to like a Goodreads 5. I thought that it was phenomenal, and I think that it's an interesting perspective for me as somebody who didn't know very much about the intricacies of this history, these historical figures, because I just think that John Williams did such an incredible job in the sense that this book is so like convincingly classical Roman. Like, if I didn't know that this was fiction and obviously has been researched but will have taken liberties with the real thoughts and feelings of these people, like I could have believed that these were actual letters or actual transcripts written by real like historical figures and real people. And so like it's easy to think of them as characters because I'm reading them in a novel, but like Augustus and like Julia and like a lot of the other political figures like Marcus Antonius, like Cicero, like you name it. There are a lot of people whose thoughts and feelings are expressed in here through the letters that they send, and it just builds such an interesting narrative when you have all of those coming together. And I feel like it really showcases how talented John Williams was at trying to get into the heads of all of these people and like writing and expressing themselves the way that they would, and making them like distinct from each other, and expressing like opinions that are on both sides. Like when you think about the empire versus the republic, and how people felt about Augustus like revolutionizing the government and the way that Rome like operated, like turning it from a republic into an empire. And I found it super interesting how Rome operated in the sense that like obviously it was still an empire, but there was very much an emphasis on the benefits of like what it meant to be a citizen of Rome, like education and food and protection and whatever. Like it seemed very much as though Augustus as emperor, while wielding his power, tried to focus on like why people should want to be a part of this. And it was a really interesting look into like a ruler's perspective, and even all the other people around him, their perspective too, like what they thought about what he was doing. And I was really enjoying a lot of the philosophizing that was going on in here, because in addition to Augustus having some very reflective letters in here, we also hear from a fair few like poets of the time. And so the way that they write and the philosophy that they like preach, I guess you could call it, and the way that they think about the world and the way that they would think about writing about it, and the relationships and like the politics and everything. It was truly like intricate and impressive. And I was just so like, it did take me a little bit to get into this, and I think that was why it was a 4.5, because the beginning was a little bit slow. Like it took me some getting used to understand kind of where we were and situate myself. But once we got past that and I got my momentum, this was just quite honestly phenomenal. So if you are at all interested in like the history of the Roman Empire and this time period, and even if like me, you didn't know much about it, but you're interested in it, I would absolutely recommend this. And I feel like if you're somebody who already knows about it, I would still recommend this, because it was just like, I just can't overstate how talented of an author I feel that John Williams is. And after reading Stoner and then Augustus by him this year, he is just like, he has impressed me so much. So yeah, absolutely a win. I loved this book. So with that said, that is a wrap on my 2023 video series of reading Booktubers' favorite books. And I really think that on the whole, like most of these books were a success. There were a couple that didn't work so well for me, but it was really, really nice to end the year on such a high note. So thank you so much again to Alan for the recommendation. I am really, really happy that I enjoyed it so much, and I'm especially happy that I got to read a book that just feels so like perfect for you. Like this is just such an Alan book. So very, very nice way to cap off the year. And I hope that you guys enjoyed watching these videos this year. This is something that I might come back to. I'm not doing it in 2024, but it really was fun and I enjoyed how it went. So that is going to be it for this video. Please like if you liked it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe if you would like to see more from me. As always, I'll have my Discord with Ben and my socials linked in the description if you're interested in any of that stuff. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!